Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into the really intense psychological world of the anime Death Note.
Yeah, we're using insights from a conversation we look at about the show, trying to figure out why it hits so hard psychologically.
Exactly. Our mission is pretty much to unpack that core battle of minds, and pull out some of the key takeaways.
It's quite a journey, isn't it? From this top student finding a notebook to, well, becoming something else entirely.
And that cat and mouse game,
Yeah.
legendary, all built on these weirdly specific rules.
Well, let's start with Light Yagami's transformation. That's one of the core things discussed. He starts out brilliant, maybe a bit bored.
Right, jaded, and then boom, he finds the Death Note, the power. It shifts something in him incredibly fast.
It really does. He gets this idea of justice, but it spirals, into this full-on God complex.
And his intelligence makes it terrifying. He starts seeing people as just pawns. The source material really highlighted how he manipulates even those close to him.
Absolutely. And underpinning all of this, the rules of the notebook itself.
Yeah.
It's not just write a name, they die.
No, that key detail, needing the victim's face in mind, that was critical, wasn't it?
Totally. It grounded the power, gave it a kind of psychological weight, prevented just like random chaos. It needed intent, knowledge.
Like that Lyndall Taylor incident on TV, that trap L set.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
source discussion pointed to that as showing Light's precision,
Yeah.
using that face rule right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Calculated.
And that trap, that specific move, is what really brings L into the picture, right?
Pretty much. Elle gets interested because of that. And what's fascinating, the insight, was that Elle basically knew Light was Kira super early on. He just couldn't prove it.
So that's the puzzle. How do you corner someone like Light when there's no conventional evidence?
Well, that's Elle's genius, isn't it? Pure psychological tactics. The conversation really focused on this.
Like enrolling at the same university? That was bold.
Yeah, and the tennis match. So much tension there. Or later, being literally handcuffed together.
Right. Those weren't just dramatic flair. They were L actively trying to provoke Light. Force his hand, basically. Psychological warfare.
But Light was just as brilliant playing defense. Remember that move highlighted in the discussion? When he gave up the death note?
Oh, yeah. And his memories, too. He became, like, genuinely innocent for a while.
Exactly. All to clear his name when Elle got too close.
Yeah.
And then reclaiming it all with perfect timing. It just showed incredible foresight, real long game thinking.
Which makes L's death such a massive turning point. The source called it a tragedy.
Definitely. Not just for the plot, but because Elle was, well, Light's only real match,
Yeah.
his intellectual equal.
Taking him out just changed the whole feel of the show, didn't it?
Fundamentally. Near and Mellow came in, obviously, but that unique dynamic, that specific psychological tension between Light and Elle, it wasn't quite the same.
No. And that moment itself, L dying, that silence, and just that tiny smile from Light, it was chilling, a major shift.
And watching all this happen, Ryuk, the Shinigami who dropped the notebook.
Right, he's just sort of there, an observer. Mostly neutral, kind of amused by it all.
Yeah, his role was discussed as being this constant reminder of where the power came from and, the ultimate price. That warning he gave Light at the start.
I'll be the one to write your name in the notebook. Yeah, that hangs over everything.
He does. Which brings us to the end. The conversation called it quite poetic.
Light's final moments.
Huh?
Just desperate, alone, completely exposed.
The guy who saw himself becoming a god just brought down his own intelligence, his ambition, twisted by that power, leading straight to his own destruction.
It's a powerful end to that arc. So, stepping back, the big picture. The source material seemed clear. This isn't just good versus evil.
Not at all. It's really digging into what happens when someone brilliant gets absolute power and thinks they're above any kind of judgment.
How that power, without accountability, can just consume you, even the brightest mind.
Exactly. His lasting impact isn't really about the action scenes. It's the psychology, the moral questions, and that incredible battle of wits.
So we've gone from Light's disturbing transformation, the rules, the core fight with L, that huge turning point with his death, and the inevitable end with Ryuk watching.
And the key takeaway seems to be that Death Note's real power, its endurance, comes from that deep dive into the human psyche under extreme pressure. Morality, power, ego. It's all in there.
It definitely leaves you thinking. Considering that intense intellectual battle, Light versus L, and how it all played out, what does the show really suggest about being brilliant versus being, moral when absolute power enters the equation?
Yeah, that's the question it leaves you with, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot to unpack there.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.